This is episode 139 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 139 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today, I have Jaqueline Marshall of BRRRR Designs on the show. And Jacqueline is an investor and house flipper that's primarily active in Windsor, Ontario right now. She started her investing with just some buy and holds in the St. Catharines, Niagara region, and over time turned her portfolio into a bit of a cash flow monster, which allowed her to leave her job as a dental hygienist in combination with the active income of flipping that she's doing right now. And Jacqueline's approach is actually quite unique because she sort of took a page out of the book of Brittany Arneson, who does a lot of the work herself or was doing a lot of the work herself on her BRRRR projects. And Jacqueline's actually doing that with her flips, and she profiles it very well on her Instagram page at BRRRR Design. So if you want to check that out, I've included the handle for that in the show notes of this episode. I'm confident you're going to get a lot out of this episode. If you're new to the podcast, as always, I recommend going right back to the beginning. Episodes 1 through 10 are very foundational, and then all the way up to 20 and onward will really help you wrap your head around this stuff. A lot of the initial concepts were reiterated over again to help make sure that you got it nailed down. So if you haven't already done that, or if you're feeling like you're not quite following along, I highly recommend heading right back to episode 1. And then beyond that, if you wouldn't mind just taking a moment and rating and reviewing this podcast on Apple Podcasts, and if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell and leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. It'll just help more people to find this content and hopefully help them as well. So without further ado, let's get started with episode 139 with Jaqueline Marshall. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I have Jaqueline Marshall on the show today. We've been trying to line this up for a while. Jaqueline, you do a lot of hands-on work. I've followed your Instagram a bit and wanted to hear your story. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me your time and the use of your platform to share my story.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So could you just give me a little bit of the backstory of what you're doing in real estate right now, how you got to where you're at, and then we'll have more questions from there.
Yeah. So I've been doing this for about 6 years, being an investor, and it all snowballed and took on a life of its own when it started because I had no intentions of being an investor. I was a dental hygienist, and I had acquired a couple of rentals with still no concept of real estate investing, no intentions of walking away from hygiene, and just taking this on full time and just making it a career and having that time freedom. But as I got into it and I got more rentals, I became more aware, started becoming more knowledgeable about it, and the light bulbs started going off, and it took a life of its own. And then after 6 single-family home rentals in the Niagara area, they're in St. Catharines, Welland, Fonthill area. And I started flipping over about 3 years ago, and I never looked back. I did my first flip, which was a light cosmetic or a light lipstick flip. And I just loved it. And yeah, there was just, you weren't going to put me back in a dental office ever again.
So you transitioned, it would have been 2018 then?
It was about 3 years ago, three and a bit, give or take a couple of months. Yep.
Okay.
So I guess,
so that was the end of dental hygiene. You were doing rentals on the side. And I imagine you probably have some pretty strong cash flow on that portfolio, given where it is and the time frame you were doing that in.
I did. So I started acquiring the rentals 6 years ago. And just to give you an example, I bought one for $144,000, and I could sell it now. I've done some CapEx stuff on it, like roofs and windows and some waterproofing over the past 6 years, but I could sell that property. It's about somewhere between 700 and 800 square feet. It's between the university in St. Catharines and the new hospital. So it's a really ideal location, sweet spot. And I could sell it for $450, $475, no problem. So,
yeah, those are great.
And the cash flow, the rent. Yeah. And so the rent on that, it's right now, I just raised it to $1,525 a month plus utilities. And that's still under market, but I do that with all of my rentals. And I don't raise the rent on my tenants when they're with me. If they're with me 4 years, I don't raise the rent. If they were with me 5, 6 years, yeah, I would have to start getting into raising the rent. But the longest tenant I've ever had in one rental up in Font Hill, they were with me for 4 years, and I never raised the rent on them. So, but I lost them due to COVID. They were just, so.
Time to move on there. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a similar approach, especially with my student rentals, not wanting to raise the rent. But I mean, for me, it was, I knew that they were going to leave. Like I knew that at year 4, they might stay for a 4th year and I actually look at that as a good thing. But if, it wasn't likely they were going to stay longer than that. So after like a 4-year cycle, I'd be able to increase the rents. That's how I've always looked at that.
Yeah.
Now, did you ever have any fear with any of those that people might just stay really long term and you'd be so far behind market rent that it wouldn't make as much sense to hang on to it? Like, what's your thought process with all that?
I'm not too concerned. Like even ever since from the get-go, I've always had positive cash flow. And as long as that is maintained, I don't care. I don't want to put anyone in a position. I know people seem to think, well, Jacqueline, you need to be a little bit more hard-headed and business inclined, take the emotion out of it. But I if it's under market value, I really don't care because I'm still cash flowing on all of my properties. The mortgages were so cheap on them when I bought them. Like for example, 6 years ago or whenever I bought it, the house up in Font Hill, I bought that for $190 or $192. You can't buy a house in Font Hill anywhere now for less than $700,000. So,
right.
So it's
so you're winning no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, just because the markets are they've gone up and the rents have gone up, and subsequently I've been able to raise my rents with tenant turnovers, and so the cash flow just keeps going up and up and up and up. I mean, I've got $1,200 a month cash flow on one property alone. So
that's amazing.
Who can say that?
In our sphere, we get a few, but I mean, not outside, not the average person can say that. So, that's really fantastic. Yeah. So you built a nice portfolio. You said you sort of stumbled upon that. Why'd you keep doing it? Like, what was your why there?
The why. I mean, I had my house, the house that ended up being the first rental. I put it up for sale simply because I wanted to move to another community. I was working as a dental hygienist. It didn't sell. And out of frustration, I put it up for rent. And I called my agent and said, I'm just going to rent it. I'm going to buy another house. I need to move closer to where I work. Right. And I had good luck with the first tenants. And so I thought, so the second house that I had bought, I was like, well, why don't I just rent this and go buy another house? And I was going to house hack that because it had an income suite. But when it came time to finding tenants to live in the same building with me, because that was where I was going to stop, it didn't sit right with me. And I wasn't in my comfort zone to live in the same building with other tenants or people because I've never lived like that. And so I just ended up renting it all out and just went and bought another house. I just kept on going, and it just kind of took a life of its own. And I wasn't doing anything intentionally with the idea of I was going to walk away from hygiene, because that's a $42, $47 an hour job. And I was working 12-hour shifts. So, but I don't know, just the light bulb went off, and I had a conversation with my real estate agent. And I said, what are my options with real estate investing? Like, what else do people do to invest in real estate? So after that conversation with him, something that stood out with me was flipping. And I saw time freedom. I saw an opportunity, particularly after I sold the first flip. I saw a real opportunity. Wow, I don't have to work 12-hour shifts in the dental office. And I could have time freedom. I was more in control of my financial future. I saw a better, more comfortable retirement for myself, because I mean, every year I look at my RSPs with my bank and I'm like, can you explain to me how I'm going to retire comfortably with the lifestyle I want on this? And I just saw that flipping and real estate investing, that was going to bankroll the retirement I want for myself that much better than RSPs or continuing to work as a hygienist till I was just too old to do it. There was a cap on it. With real estate investing, there's no cap on it. Like, how big do you want to build your portfolio? Just learn how to do it and it can happen. So,
right.
Yeah.
Now, do you still pepper in some BRRRR projects to keep in with your flips, or are you just strictly flipping right now?
I've never BRRRRed any of my properties, and some people find that strange. But to be honest, when I was acquiring the rentals, I didn't even know that was an option. No, I wasn't asking the questions because I was so unknowledgeable back then. So I wasn't asking the questions, and the bank and my real estate agent, they weren't thinking or prompting me to go, well, maybe Jacqueline, you should look at other options or how to do this and whatever. And so I've never BRRRRed, but now that I know what I know, I am considering, because I'm literally sitting on 300,000 to 500,000 equity in every respective property that I have. Mm-hmm. So if I took that all out, I'm going to be able to really bankroll the multifamily in the upcoming year, which is what I want to do. And I've had that discussion with my accountant and my bank and myself. We've had conference calls about it. And I just said, I want to take equity out. This is what I want to do for the next year or 5 years. This is what my goals are. This is what I want my portfolio to look like. So yeah, we've had some conference calls a couple of times in the past several months, just knowing how we need to set things up. So having a good accountant and having those talks now is what's going to help me really scale up.
Yeah, it sounds like you're poised to do it. You're in that good position. You got the equity there, and it's really just a matter of finding the property that looks right to you. Is that a fair assessment?
Mm-hmm. It is. And also just, I slowly graduated into being a landlady. So the confidence, so the first time I became a landlady, that first house, it didn't even cross my mind that maybe I should do some background checking. Maybe I should give them an application. I had no systems, no processes, had no idea that I should. And so in the past 6 years that's obviously changed. I've learned how to be a better landlady and how to screen people and mitigate risk and all of that. So with those systems and processes and all of that experience and knowledge of the past 6 years under my belt now, I'm going to snowball that into multifamily. I feel really confident taking that on, project management, building management, how to vet management companies. Like before, a couple of years ago, it wouldn't have even crossed my mind that I should vet a property management company, but now I do, and I know how to have that conversation. So I'm definitely going into multifamily much more confident, much more knowledgeable, and I feel confident that that's going to mitigate risk, So.
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Mm-hmm. And I can definitely resonate with, kind of just not having a process early on. It reminds me of how I got my first tenants and got myself into trouble. And, I had groups of students before I had a process for the student stuff. They had a paintball fight in one of the houses. It's, it's easy to get yourself into trouble if you don't know the process, right? So yeah, that's why it's great to kind of leverage this community. And obviously, now the day we're in with like podcasts and people sharing their stories, there's a lot of free advice out there. So not to change gears too much here, but looking at your Instagram, you seem like you're fairly handy, and you do a lot of these renovations yourself. Tell me about kind of your standard project, what you get into, what you yourself are doing, what you're subbing out.
Yeah. That too, when I didn't overwhelm myself with the first flip because I didn't have any knowledge, experience, or background with renovating or DIYing or anything like that. But my mindset is also, I can't use lack of knowledge, experience, or background as an excuse not to go after something. Mm-hmm. So I did a lot of YouTubing. I reached out to a lot of people who, I also come from a construction background. So it's not like I wasn't unfamiliar or I didn't have resources or I didn't have a dial a friend or anything like that. But it was just perseverance. And so the first flip, I did it with $10,000. I didn't have a penny more, and it was all cosmetic. And it worked, and I had success with it. And even though I had to redo things, even though I had some meltdowns and I cried and I was frustrated, and there was a few moments where I was like, what the hell have I got myself into? I just persevered. I kept going. And sometimes I just walked away from everything and maybe took the day off and just took a break from trying to focus on a solution and just gave myself a break and just thought about it and researched and went back and did it. and I got it completed. I got it sold. I was happy and I was hooked, and I just wanted to do another one. So that's, I've done 8 now. So yeah.
8 flips. That's great.
Yeah.
And are you usually the one doing the work, or do you hire out some of it as well?
Yeah, so I did graduate. I love a challenge. So I didn't want to stick with just cosmetic flips or like construction needs, like things that all I could do myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I did graduate into things like where it needed new windows, new roof. The house had to be entirely rewired because it had knob and tool. So those are things that, I get permits for. I hire the people who are licensed and bondable, especially the electrical.
Mm-hmm.
So, I got into projects, but again, if I had started off, I think with flips on my own that needed electrical and this, that, and the other thing, those big things where I think I would have ran for the hills. So I just slowly graduated and kept challenging myself. And I slowly learned how to vet contractors and tradespeople and what to look out for. And I did just a lot of research on that too. There's a lot of resources. So I just learned and slowly rolled with the mistakes and took that learning experience and those mistakes and took it to the next project and make sure I didn't do it again. And mm-hmm. Call me crazy.
That's great. And we'll dig into a specific example of one of these. And anyone who hasn't already checked out your Instagram profile should. So it's what is it? BRRRR?
BRRRR Design.
Yeah, BRRRR. BRRRR Design is the handle for that. So yeah, I can see you doing quite a bit of hands-on. Just before we dig into one of those examples, I find that it's pretty rare that people will get into sort of the full-time flipping gig when they come out of a job that they're into. It pays them really well. It's hard to transition. Now, of course, I think your experience in rentals probably helped you because you probably had to do like odds and ends repairs and stuff. But was there a specific thing that kind of, like, I know you said you found it fun, but was it that you were anticipating it be fun, or were you kind of just ready for a change? Like what was it that made you do that? Because you obviously had full-time work already.
I didn't enjoy. I started working as a hygienist and I wasn't doing it very long before I realized that, oh my God, I hate this career. But when you spend all those years and all that money training to get that career, and you're making a good living, and you've got a 12-hour shift, it's what do you replace that with? I just didn't know. And I sure as hell wasn't going to go back to college or university and try something again. And like I said, it was just by pure luck that I stumbled and unintentionally became a landlady, and it took on a life of its own. And then I had that conversation with my agent, which I want to point out, it's very important to have an agent that is investor knowledgeable and friendly, and maybe an investor himself, so that he knows what the heck that he's talking about when you have those conversations or questions. So I think having a good real estate minded agent is important. It's been an asset for me, particularly. But just after having that conversation, I mean, it just took on a life of its own. And I don't know if I was looking for fun. I was just looking for something that was going to replace my hygiene paycheck and then some, and bankroll a better future for myself. Yeah.
It sounds like you hit a pain point, right? Like you were kind of ready to move on. You said you weren't loving it. So that must have been you knew real estate worked. You had some testimony that it worked. And then of course you had that pain point. And that's what I was kind of getting at. Like people who love their jobs, I feel like they progress slower into a business like this, if at all. It takes them a lot longer, because if you like what you do all day long, like why are you going to force yourself to work evenings and weekends to do something else, unless you want to make that change? So I appreciate you answering those questions. I don't mean to pry on it. I just want to understand better.
No, I just want to jump off too. Like the first flip, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't, but my mindset, and I think this is very important too. My mindset was, I was so driven and I wanted to be so successful, and I just persevered, and failing was not an option. It was like, this is going to work, or, it was going to work.
This is going to work because there's no way I'm going back to hygiene. Was that kind of what it was? Yeah.
Yep.
So I've been in a similar position, this, when I started, doing my student projects, the very first ones, it was just like, this is going to work no matter what, because I hadn't really found my niche. I hadn't really found the thing that I liked doing yet. And I wasn't willing to go backwards. I wanted to go forwards.
Yeah.
And awesome. So I can definitely relate there. Okay. Let's dig into one of these projects. Do you have a recent one you can tell me about?
Yeah, I mean, I closed on one in March in Windsor. So what do you want to know about it? That's
okay.
my
So you haven't sold it yet. You're just in the middle of
Oh,
rentals?
no, it's sold. Yeah, no, I sold.
You closed the sale.
I closed on it on March 24th or 25th. I closed on it. So it's been a few months. Yeah.
What was that one? Was it a single family? Was it a semi-detached or a single detached home?
Yeah. So that was a 1-floor crawl space, fully detached, no garage, no air conditioning, $180,000. I ordered new windows, put a new roof on the back because the front part of the house, the shingles were new, but on the back it had 9 layers of shingles.
Oh, wow.
So that, yeah, I know. Crazy. So that was all done. And it was just a lot of cosmetic work, stuff that I was able to do. And I've become really good at drywalling. Unfortunately, I hate it, but this house required a lot of drywalling. I did it, and it's just things that I could do myself. But the electrical too was very, very minimal on this house. The bill came to like $1,500, I think. And whereas other houses, electrical, the bill came in at $7,000 or $9,000. So,
right.
And I sold it it was $320.
Okay, $320. How long did that take you, start to finish?
It took me. I didn't really rush it. It was 5 months, but I ordered the windows for the house. I knew it was going to take a long time for the windows to come in. So I ordered the windows for the house 2 weeks prior to me closing on this house. So I got the ball rolling on that.
Right.
And it did take a while for them to come in. But then when they did come in, my contractor who was going to do installing, he had a massive heart attack the day that his wife was in the hospital delivering their baby. So it was, it was a crazy, he had a really good excuse for not showing up to put the windows in. So obviously I wanted him to do it and he needed to do it. And I gave him 4 or 5 weeks to just recover and recuperate. And then he made arrangements, which I'm very grateful for. He made arrangements with another person to come and do the install. And he had someone, he wasn't able to drive because of the heart attack and the surgery. So his sister drove him to my house several times so that he could oversee the work that he made arrangements with the other guy to do. So having a great contractor like that is instrumental in my success as well. He really took accountability despite his situation. So.
That's insane. How old is this guy? He's just having a baby and he's having a heart attack?
Yeah. She was, he's in his 30s. He doesn't smoke. He's slim. He's a slim Jim. He's like 6'3" and a beanpole. Like it was just one of those things. Yeah.
Wow.
But thank God he's
I hope he's all right. Yeah.
Yep. No, he is. Yep.
Okay. So you took 5 months on that one, and I've ordered windows early too. One time it bit me. I didn't end up closing on the house because I found something come up and I had to just give the windows away basically. But because they're so specific, right? You could sell them for like $100, but okay. So how much were you in total on that house? Like how much did you put into all the work?
So I bought the house in cash. So I didn't have any lender's fees or anything like that, or interest or anything.
You put 180 down. Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
I didn't have to worry. I always like to come in with cash because that gives me that beats out other offers too when I come in with cash, and I'm willing to close within a week or two. So my offer conditions are usually, I usually get the bid. I haven't lost too many bids because of that. But so 180 cash. Closing was, actually, I got it written down. Closing costs were $3,000. So that's land transfer tax, my lawyer. So that's that.
Okay.
And then my renovation costs and holding costs were $30,000.
Okay. So you're in about $33,000, including your carrying. So you're in for 213, selling for 320.
Mhm.
And you're typically just doing one property at a time, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So $107,000 in profit on that one, less
Mhm.
your lawyer's fees when you sold and your real estate fees. Did you had a realtor
Yep.
fee? Yeah. Okay. So you were
Yeah.
probably
So,
paying, what were you paying the realtor there?
so I pay 14.5%. And so my realtor fees were 14,400, I believe, give or take. And the
Okay.
HST was 1,900 and my lawyer was 900. So that came to about a little less than $17,000.
In expenses for selling. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Minus 17. Okay. Oops. Yeah. So still $90,000 profit. And you're able to do one of those. How often? Are you typically getting two of those in a year?
I usually before COVID's put a little hiccup on things. But I've usually get in and start on my third one within 1 year frame. I have done that.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's pros and cons to doing it that way, but the con is that it's very limiting because I'm only doing one at a time. But the pros is that I've almost mastered project management. I know how to vet contractors, and just like the multifamily, now that I've got this experience under my belt, I know how long something should take. I know how much materials should cost, things like that, and how to vet contractors and just everything and permits and all of this. I feel quite confident with my project management skills, taking that in and taking on 2, 3, 4 flips at a time, which, I'm willing to do just for the challenge of it. And because I love a challenge, I need to be challenged. Otherwise I get bored.
So now the challenge is finding the deals, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's your new challenge that we can all enjoy together.
Oh, relate.
Now this being like you're in the Niagara region, is that where you live?
No, so I started all the rentals are there, and I started flipping there. But then I got priced and bid it out. So I was going from when I started flipping, I was like, okay, there's 1 or 2 bids on this house, and then that graduated because everyone from Toronto now is coming to Niagara to flip or buy properties, and I was going from being the only offer to 30 offers on a damn house, and I'm just like, I can't compete with that. Mm-hmm. So even with my conditions, I was waiving conditions, I was paying cash, I still couldn't compete unless I wanted to go $50,000, $70,000, $80,000 over this house, which I'm not going to do. So I just went on Realtor and typed in, okay, $200,000. Where can I buy a house for $200,000 or less in Ontario? And a lot of places came up, but a lot of those places I wouldn't. I'm willing to consider some tertiary markets, but not Kappus casing. So I ended up in Windsor for the past 2 years, and I've had really good luck. And the landscape down there has changed dramatically in the past 2 years, also. Which I kind of contribute to COVID as well. But my home base is here in Waterloo. So my home base.
Okay, so you've lived in Waterloo pretty well this whole time?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've always been a bit of a distance investor. Now for the Windsor property, were you down there doing work yourself?
Yep. I stay in my flips. I do all the work, so I have to stay there. That's my insurance company loves the fact that I stay there. And also, I don't have to get a vacancy permit, which I would have to get. And it increases my productivity because I'm doing the work, and there's no distractions in the flips. I don't have a TV. I don't have any music. I don't have any of that. I just work. And productivity is just up the roof. I have nothing else to do. I don't know anybody in Windsor. I don't have any girlfriends to hang out with. So so it makes me more driven to get it finished. So
does that make it hard for friends and family back home? Are you just coming back on the weekends, or are you just down in Windsor full time until it's done?
Pretty much. It depends on where I'm at, or if I've got someone lined up, scheduled for a worker to come in and work at the house. I want to stay there and be there. But Tim, my significant other, he gets in his truck and he'll drive down, or I'll drive down or I'll drive back home to Waterloo every second weekend or something. And
Okay.
Yeah. We
So you
figured
guys
it
make
out.
it work. Yeah, I remember when
Yeah.
I was doing similar stuff, staying in the house. My
Mhm.
she's my wife now, but she,
Yep.
she didn't love it. She was my girlfriend at the time. She's like, "Wait, you're gonna go back to London and leave me for,
Yeah.
5 days at a time."
Yeah.
But you know what? Like you said, when you're driven, you got to do what you got to do
hmm
and make it
I
work.
mean, I won't lie. It gets lonely. It
Hmm.
gets lonely down in Windsor. Absolutely. It was frustrating. It makes it hard. Let's not sugarcoat this. It's
Hmm.
hard. But at the same time, I'm going to be successful. I've got my goals and
Right.
damn
And
it, I'm going to achieve them.
yeah, now do you see? Well, I guess it depends on what the goal is. Is the goal a monetary goal? Is it a number of properties you flipped yourself? Is that success to you? What is success to you?
Being happy. Being
Being
happy and
happy.
loving what I do. Like I thought I was going to love being a hygienist, and no, I just want to love. I mean, yeah, I'm staying and renovating houses that stink so much it would make you throw up. But you know what? I wouldn't trade it for the world because I'm happy. I'm living life on my terms. It's just, yeah, I'm in control of my paycheck. It's all I have to answer to no one but me. And in the hygiene, that was not the case. And I was really
Yeah.
unhappy and just, yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy. It's
Yeah.
shitty work. It's shitty work, but
But you
no.
do it with a smile. Oh man, I can
I
totally
do.
relate to that. So
Oh, there have been
so
tears.
many.
There have been tears. Trust me, there have been tears.
Yeah. Oh, I can relate. I used
Yeah.
to drive down to London, and when I was doing it by myself, it was, I was down Monday morning until I come back. I think I came back on Wednesday night.
Mhm.
And then I would drive down again Thursday morning, come back Friday night to Burlington. So like no showers in between, like sleeping in a house that's like under renovation. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, but you know what? I was up until that point probably never happier working because I was working for myself,
Yep.
doing my own thing, and I
Mhm.
saw the
Yep.
benefit. I saw the reward out of that. And then
Mhm.
later on, when my business partner Mike and I started working together, we just take turn. At first, we'd both go down. We'd do the same thing. We'd drive down every day,
Mhm.
and we just take turns. I go one day, he go the
Yep.
next, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But
Yeah. I
do
just
it
want to
happy.
point out yeah, I want to point out, like, yeah, it's really hard work and it can be stressful doing this. But I think having no regrets, it really got driven home. So, when COVID started back in March, right? Like a year and a half ago.
Hmm.
So I had just sold on another flip. I just closed on another flip back a year and a half ago. I just closed. And I came home, and then 2 weeks later, the world started shutting down. And no one was going to be able to predict. And, we figured like, oh, just for maybe like a couple of weeks or a month, maybe, things are going to shut down and the world's going to go back to the way it was. Well, a year and a half later, here we are in this gong show. So, but I mean, when I had closed on that flip and I came back home to Waterloo, and I had that money in my bank account. I had my assets. I had that communication with my tenants to make sure that they were okay and comfortable paying rent. And I opened that discussion. So I had covered all my bases. I had good financial stability in terms of that and just everything. And I sat on the sofa probably a month into quarantine. And I said to Tim, I'm just like, if I had stayed as a hygienist, I wouldn't have financial peace of mind right now. But because I took that risk and I took it on, I was scared. My real estate investing, I was like, wow, we can ride this out for 10 or 12 years and not worry or sweat or worry about whether we're going to have a roof over our heads. So, yeah, I just love the power of real estate investing.
Same.
Yeah.
I say it.
Yeah.
Say it. Maybe I don't say it enough on the podcast, but I think dependency is what creates stress for people. Bad stress.
Mm-hmm.
Good stress is like
Mm-hmm.
a project you're working on. You got a deadline. I think that's good stress. But dependency is like that fear of how am I going to eat? How am I going to take care of my basic survival? And I think that comes when we rely on our government for pension, when we rely on an employer to keep us on. Because at the end of the day, if an employer doesn't have work for us, they lay us off.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that. If you go way back before the Industrial Revolution, most people were entrepreneurs. Most people had a trade. They ran their own show. It's just in the last 150 years that we've really gotten away from that. And I think that it is a key to obtaining peace in life is to not have that
Mhm.
dependency. Like you said,
Yeah.
if you had still been in hygiene, you probably would have been pretty stressed if you didn't have those rental properties.
Yeah, I would have been stressed.
Yeah. Fortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, our government gave handouts to tenants so they could pay their rent. So for us landlords, it kept us afloat. I never missed a rent payment from any tenants. Did you?
Yeah.
Probably not, right?
No,
Yeah,
I
they all
had that
paid.
open. I was in a good financial position, and I didn't want my tenants to be stressed out, with like, oh my God, like with their jobs and all of this, and I don't have enough money for food and this and that. And I realized, quickly on the onset of this whole gong show that some people weren't as fortunate as me. And I didn't want to, I was ready to pay it forward kind of thing. But no, all my tenants, they paid, and the tenants that found that they were running into problems meeting rent, they didn't want to get to that point where they couldn't pay rent. So they opted out and they moved out and they moved in with their family, their parents,
Gotcha.
to have, yeah. So, which I respected and I totally appreciated that they did that. So,
Well, they must get along well with you. You must have a very good relationship with them.
I try to, I don't get too friendly with my tenants, but I try to keep it like a very friendly business, but not like, Iron Lady here. But
yeah, you're reasonable, right? I think if tenants realize that you're always reasonable, like make a point if something's broken, fix it right away. I think that if they see that, then they want to treat you better. You get enemies when they tell you something's broken, you never fix it, and that kind of thing. That's that you don't want. You don't want a tenant. You don't want a tenant as an enemy.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
I haven't had that, knock on wood, so don't jinx me.
I'm trying to think if I've had that. I've definitely had ones that didn't go smooth. Yeah, no, I did have a set actually they were one of my early mistakes before I had a process, before I knew how to vet and trust my gut with applications. I put the wrong tenants in, and yeah, we butt heads, and they lasted 7 years with me.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I learned from that mistake. Anywho, okay, so what would you want to share, Jacqueline? I know I've asked you quite a few questions. Is there anything you would want to share, kind of words of wisdom, things that you've learned along the way?
Once you learn the potential of real estate investing, don't let it scare you, because there's systems and processes for every problem. There is someone out there who's acknowledgeable. There's podcasts like people like yourself who provide so much valuable networking and information. Like everything is outable. Like every problem has a solution. And don't be afraid to pivot or take some sweat equity, because that's what I've done. And, I've been flipping houses and I've done them myself, but I'm scaling into a point where, and my budget has gone so that I can start hiring out people to do everything, maybe 75% instead of like me doing 90 and them doing 10. So figure it out. Don't give up. And just learn how to curate and collaborate. I like that expression. Curate like content, and collaborate.
Curate content, or
like curate your knowledge, curate your people, your network, and and learn how to collaborate. Scalability, if that's what you want to do. Yeah.
So just reaching out with other people, learning how they're growing, and copying or taking something from that to help apply it to your own situation.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the collateral beauty for me, the past year and a half with COVID was that I started my Instagram account and I started discovering the REI community in last November. And that was like, I started discovering podcasts. And up to that point, I had no idea that there was an REI community, or a real estate podcast or anything like that. So that's been the collateral beauty for me. And just my mind is opening, like the knowledge that I've learned. And I'm just like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to scale up. I'm going to go bigger.
Awesome. Well, yeah, you seem like you're poised to do it. And it'll be exciting to watch you. What's your vision for the next year? I know you said multifamily. Like, what's next for you? That's the next thing, the very next thing that's happening?
It's going to be multifamily and doing some more flips. I want to take on 2. I'm going to start with 2 and see how I manage 2. And if I feel like that's going relatively good, I'm going to get the 3rd one rolling, and possibly 4. Like I said, I just really want to scale up. I really want to challenge myself and learn. And then if I ever JV with somebody or partner up with somebody, I feel like I would be bringing a lot of value into that collaboration with all my experience. And yeah, because I mean, you have to bring something to the table, and maybe if it's not money, then at least it's experience in project management, or, I can take over for something like somebody from out of town, from another province, or just, whatever. Like right now.
So you would run the project like you are now, hire out a lot of the work, but do some of it, and then have a money partner in. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, like for huge scalability. Yeah, for big
okay, so not for a small project, but for something bigger.
No.
Yeah, you got the small ones.
Handle that myself.
You got the small ones tackled. Yeah, that makes sense. Why split it up?
I buy it in cash, and I just go, and I got my team. Yeah, so
nice. And in target areas, are you thinking Windsor for the multifamilies, or do you have another look?
So I've gotten pre-approved at the bank for $400,000. So I've already got my pre-approval for that for a multifamily. And this is something else I didn't know. So right now, CIBC is my bank. That's who I have all my mortgages with and for my rentals. So when I had that conversation with them over the past couple of months, this is something else I've learned. So for multifamily, CIBC is the only bank that's capped at 4 units. So if you want to have a 5, 6, 20, 100, you have to go somewhere else. CIBC won't lend that money.
Well, you have to go to the commercial division. So you can go CIBC
you have to go somewhere else. Yeah.
You can go to the commercial division at CIBC. But I mean, if I were you down in like Windsor, Chatham area, I'd just find local credit unions. So yes, the big banks, you can go, BMO, TD, any of those, just from my broker days. Those are banks that will do, unlimited number of doors, but they have different lending groups for each number of doors and well, not number of doors, but each price range. So I know you said you're pre-approved for 400, but reasonably, you can, if you can prove competency in your application, you could buy 100 doors tomorrow.
I don't know if I want to take, let's just settle down.
Yeah.
I'm willing to take on like maybe 5 to 12, 16, 20.
Yeah, well, that sounds great.
I feel I don't want to overwhelm myself, and and there's no reason for me to take 100 doors on. But I'm willing to, I feel very confident, scaling up on my own. And so when I went into Realtor again, I typed in multifamily, $400,000. Yeah, not a nice few, they're fixer uppers, but you want something with value add on, and so that you can BRRRR it, because moving forward, I will be BRRRRing and refinancing my properties.
Perfect.
But that's one strategy I'm going to be doing. So I want value add. I want to, get markets up, with the tenants if I inherit any and stuff like that. So, but I'm not ready to take on 100 yet.
No, that's all right. That's all right. No rush. Okay. So you said you hate doing drywall, even though you're good at it. What's your favorite thing to do?
Oh God. I don't think any of it's my favorite. I think my favorite is when I can stand back and go, damn, I did that. And then someone else comes in and loves it and they buy it. I feel like I did a good job. And it all comes with its own challenges. It comes with its own challenges. And but I mean, I have pride in the fact that I learned how to do it. So
Well, that's fantastic. And I'm with you there. I always love the part at the end where if it was students or if I was selling it, somebody say, wow, that's really nice. Or I've never seen a student property like that. That always meant a lot to me. That was like one of the best parts. Made it really fun. Because then I just say, okay, how do I make the next one even nicer than that? And it's all up to me, right? So anyways, it's been great having you on. Great talking to you. If people wanted to reach out to you or follow you, just remind them of where and how.
Instagram, on Instagram, BAYWOP Design, BAYWOP Design.
Okay. And that's the easiest place if they want to follow and send you a message that they can get you there.
Yes, follow me.
All right. Okay, Jacqueline, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Please make sure to share this episode far and wide. Help it help more people. I really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks. I'll see you on the next one.